Um, first, first, I'd like to talk a little bit about what Andean shamanism is, and it's a way of life, and it is currently called the Andean Cosmovision. This is a system of living that we have in the Andes. Now, um, anthropologically, we are called shamans. What I do for a living is called a shaman. A shaman is a person that is a spiritual leader, a spiritual advisor, and also a healer. Um, Down in the Andean regions of South America, specifically Peru, where I was mostly trained and initiated, we don't call ourselves shamans, we call ourselves Misayocs. And a Misayok is a person that understands the evolution of consciousness. We specialize in consciousness. We particularly pay specific attention to the relationship between a human being and the hidden mental aspects that the human being has. We also pay close attention to the relationship between the human being and the natural environment where this human being interacts. So nature for us is a living, vibrant um, series of energies that are constantly interacting with each other. So for us, in particular, the shamans, what we look for is that there is constant harmony between where you are in your environment and how you're interacting with that environment. Now, also, because of all these intelligent interactions that are going on, we understand that this existence, this world that we're in, is very organized and is very, you could say, intelligent, and and it allows us the possibility to communicate. So that's a little intro into what Andean shamanism is. Um, Let me give you a couple of examples of how we use symbolism and how quickly it responds to us. Once you're practiced, it's a different way of thinking. Few months ago, I was watching YouTube and suddenly I get this suggestion, and it's about Elon Musk. And I see that Elon Musk is talking that one of his goals is to travel very, very successfully to Mars and die peacefully over there. You know, not doing an accident or anything, but just actually living in some base over there in Mars and there. And as a shaman, through the symbolism, immediately what I did was Google if he had any issues with his parents. And of course he does. He has a very rocky relationship with his dad. I'll explain what was the basis of me understanding that in such a way. Another example, which I guess could apply a little bit more for us as healers, is I have a very successful family that I interact with on a weekly basis that are in Southeast Asia, and um, as it happens in a lot of families with gigantic amounts of wealth, there's a lot of toxic family dynamics, and my particular client, uh, a female in her late 40s, has been suffering from bulimia for the past 15 years. And it only took uh, two, literally an hour and a half, two sessions, one full hour and then another one of half an hour to completely eradicate the bulimia out of her life. And actually, what we really did was not really eradicated. What we did is a shamanic process of transmutation. We took that energy, we communicated with that energy, and understood what it was trying to tell her, and communicated back and used it actually. I don't know if you could say the word transform, but we managed we were able to redirect all those impulses towards something positive. So that's a couple of examples. I'll at the end of the lecture, I'll tell you guys the actual process. But first, I wanted to open with two specific things that a lot of my clients, when they have health issues, come to me and tell me about, and it's a little bit frustrating. So I wanted to share with you guys. Most of you guys are healers, and um, there's two specific questions that modern medicine has a little bit of a difficulty in answering. The first one is, where did this condition or this situation or this discomfort, where did it originate? Why is it here? Where did it come from? Now, sometimes it's due to lifestyle, sometimes it's due to genetics, but even if that's the case, it's not enough. It's not enough to actually understand why was I doing so well until this age, and then suddenly this happens in my life, and it diminishes my quality of life. The second question is, okay, doctor, if I follow all of your instructions and I take everything that you recommend I do, or that I take as medicine or as treatment, can you guarantee 100% that this will not come back to me? And that's another question that I don't think modern medicine is very good at. We shamans, we try to actually answer those two questions. We don't consider ourselves and the treatment successful unless those questions, and especially the first one, where did this come from and why is it here? It's so important because it has to do with the vibration and the energy and the level of consciousness that the patient or the client is going through. Now, before I get into the deeper aspects of symbolism and consciousness, I'm going to give you guys a quick crash course of how shamans see the world. And the very first lesson, if you ever come and visit me, or if you ever go to Peru and you talk to a shaman, the very first lesson is that everything starts with a point, with a dot. Seeds or stars or just a basic point. And in the case of human beings, it's a human being is considered a point in time, space, and consciousness. Time and space being secondary, consciousness being primary. So for us shamans, reality is called pacha. And pacha it's a very different concept of reality that most of the modern world has. Reality to us is a mixture of time and space. So it's almost like we coordinate a specific moment in a specific place. So that particular place means nothing in 5 years later or 10 years later. It has the vibration and the energy of an event that could have occurred before. But as shamans, we kind of want to target a specific moment in time and place. The other thing that's very unique, and it's when I train people here, the other thing that is very unique to how shamans see the world is we don't see reality as one whole. Reality for us, and this is a way of thinking. It's something that is learned. Um, Reality is divided in three levels. So specifically, let's talk about location, about space. So reality for us, as far as our arm extends, in other words, our personal space, that is considered very, very real. Something that is in your personal space is 100% real. It could be an imminent danger, or it could be something wonderful that is happening to your life, but you're in it right there, right then. We have a second level of reality, and as those levels expand, the density of reality starts becoming more subtle. So the second level is as far as you can walk to, physically walk to, wherever you are. So like right now, I'm in my office. Right in front of me, there's a wall with a shelf and a couple of books. That right there is at my second level of reality. Now, if I stand up and I walk to it and I touch it, it immediately became my first level of reality because it's in my personal space. But before that, it there's a little it's almost like we consider that this is a very efficient universe. This is a universe that until your intention is directed towards going there, for you as a human being, it's almost like it's just a picture, just an apparition. But its density and its sense of reality, it's lesser than if it's in your physical space. Now, there's a third level, and that one is as far as you can see, you can hear, and even you can smell, but you cannot touch. Here we're talking about things like clouds, the moon, the sun, an airplane going by, maybe a bird flying. If you're close to the ocean, you see a boat passing by. That's third level, and this is where it gets a little more mystical, if you want to say it. But for shamans, third level of reality is 50-50. It could it could be a mirage. It could be your eyes playing tricks on you. It could be an apparition. It could be something that you are visualizing. Maybe you were in the forest and you ate that mushroom you weren't supposed to, and you're seeing something else. But it's 50-50. So from the get-go, we're training our mind to be a little bit more liquid, a little bit more soft towards hard perceived facts. That in a second I'll tell you why. If we compare it with time, it's the same thing. Something that's happening right now. Right now, I'm talking to you. This is first level of reality in time wise. Second would be maybe me signing on to Zoom 15 minutes before. I'm entering the periphery of this event that is about to happen. And third level reality is something that's a little bit further away but hasn't happened yet. So it's a 50-50 chance that this can happen. We can make all of the plans, but we can't really plan for anything that may occur last minute. Oh, and or also, this is the realm where amazing surprises happen. So we're open to amazing things and miracles, of what some would call miracles. For us shamans, there's no such thing. I'll explain a little bit later why. Now, if we go back to the concept of time and space, just space, beyond the third level, beyond what you can see, hear, and smell, is just stories. We don't really perceive it as reality. We perceive it as stories. In the Andes, where there's no television and there's no radio, in these little villages that are very, very far away from civilization, they consider it gossip. Now, it's also some stories that are legends, or it's some story that brings good emotions, but they're just considered stories. This is another thing I wanted to kind of like a little bit take a little time away from the basic explanation. And when we look at the news, something that might be happening on the other side of the world, for a shaman, it's a story. And we hope that if it's bad news and it's a whole bunch of people going through a hard time, we hope that everything goes well. But one thing that we're very careful on is not allowing stories to interact with us in a way that seep power out of us. So you don't want to get triggered. You don't want to get into a state where you feel anxious or depressed, or you're thinking where the world is going. Because shamanism is very hands on. It's all about the three levels of reality. It's all about um, connecting and interacting with what's right in front of you, about doing the best you can at all times with what's right in front of you. Um, that pretty much explains time and space from a shamanic point of view. Now we have consciousness, and for shamans and for the Andean Cosmovision, consciousness is the main ingredient that makes us human. It's what we value the most. And this is what makes us so special because of our level of consciousness. Now, once we enter into the realm of consciousness, there is there's two ways to interact in life with consciousness. The first one is automatic, and this is the one that the majority of us are experiencing here in this world where we're alive. Automatic consciousness is pretty much interacting with a process of manifestation. This process means that there's energies up in the heavens, and I guess from a scientific point of view, you could say there's photons, and these photons are coming down to Earth, and as they're entering the atmosphere, whatever vibration that they're interacting with, it starts creating the concept, the process of manifestation, ending in the process of materialization. So anything that you see around you that is made out of matter has gone through that process. And there are some self-help books that actually say that everything that has been invented started as an idea. So we shamans agree very much with that. But almost we also include things like Mother Nature, animals, rocks, plants, situations, conditions, global conditions. All of this is things that are it's energy that is interacting with specific vibration, and it's starting to densify into some manifestation or some materialization. From another point of view, also, we shamans see the human being as standing on Mother Nature and having the sky above us. So, from a more symbolic point of view, you could say that above us is the mental hidden planes of energy that hasn't manifested yet. And below us is already manifested and materialized energy. So that leaves the human being in a state of constant vibration. And this is the vibration that, when it interacts with the specific energy, manifests and materializes certain things. And specifically, one of the best examples I can give you is probably health conditions. It's depending on how you're vibrating. And this is something that we shamans pay very close attention to. We come from that angle. That's the first way to interact with consciousness. And this is the way that most of us are living. But in shamanism, we have what we consider conscious evolution. So we say, listen, if we're alive and we're enjoying this amazing consciousness and we understand how this universe works, why don't we evolve within it? And it's very simple. We only need four precepts, four practices that are constantly um, um, interacted with on a daily basis. The very first one is the concept of harmony. Somebody that follows the Andean Cosmovision tradition seeks to always be in harmony wherever they are at. You're in the office and you're in harmony. If you're at home, you're in harmony. If you're going to bed, you're in harmony. Everything should be in harmony. And you should put most out of your effort to make sure that you are in harmony. We we tend to suggest that we adapt and yield to be out of harmony. Not that we put our foot down, not that we become an obstacle or one more obstacle, but actually that we flow with things. We in symbolism we relate to the element of water for this. We learn from the element of water. Water is always flowing. Water, wherever you put it, will always seek balance. And we can go a little deeper into that later if you guys want to ask me about it. But um, the concept of harmony is not just with people, but also with objects, and especially with the environment you live in, with Mother Nature. So um, you walk in the park and you acknowledge the grass, the trees, the birds, the lizards, whatever's going on. Just that acknowledgement, just understanding what is around you, it creates this sense of inner and external and internal harmony. Um, Things like I remember before I had a Chromebook, I always had a computer and I would get super, super frustrated with it. And until, of course, I realized I wasn't behaving like a shaman. So I started feeling a little bit more um, soft towards it, a little more harmonious in the way that I would crank it up and I would interact with it. And just emanating that vibration, not necessarily regardless of what's going on in the technical aspect of the computer or machine or a car, but at least it's internal and it's the energy that you're providing to your external world. That's the first one. The second very important tenet that we use to be in evolution is nourishment. It's incredibly important that we nourish ourselves with goodness and good. Of course, good food, good quality of air, good quality of water, but also everything else that comes in through the receptors. Good things to watch, good things to listen to, good personal relationships, good information, things that provide goodness within us. We nourish everything that comes in. For shamans, human beings are considered two world walkers, two. So we walk on the external world that is in front of our eyes, but we also walk in the internal world, the one that is in our brain. So and we are the portals in between the two worlds. So we want to make sure that both inside and internally and externally, those two worlds are as balanced as possible, and that we have a very harmonious and nourishing relationship in between them. Third thing that we do is we connect, and this is, I think this is a big one nowadays. Sometimes you go to a restaurant and you see a family and they're trying to have dinner together, but half of the family members are watching their cell phones. They're not connecting with each other. Sometimes we're busy. Here in the Western world, we're busy. It's go, 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 go. And we're not connecting with the food we're eating or the water we're drinking. Um, every single thing that you do, everything that you interact with externally, and later on, I'll mention also internally, um, you take a little moment and you become conscious of the fact that you're connecting with this. You listen, you use your five senses, and you use your emotions to see where this connection is with whatever you have. As a matter of fact, for our tradition, one of the biggest reasons that people get sick is because they lack connection to their environment. Body is vibrating at one specific um, level, and wherever they are at is a completely different level, and so that lack of resonance creates discord. The third, the fourth um, exercise that we do to evolve our consciousness is routines. It can also be called disciplines, but if you go and talk to a shaman, he'll probably say something like ritual or ceremony. These are practices that are done um, every once in a while, and they are done in a it's a series of actions compounded with a series of intents to improve your life and to improve your connection and to improve your nourishment and to improve harmony within you and your environment. Now, um, at the beginning, when you first start practicing these, yeah, the ritual might be something as simple as just waking up and smiling at yourself in the mirror, you know, or patting yourself in the back, or reading some sort of an affirmation. But in this tradition, the actual goal is that your life becomes that routine. Your life becomes an actual ritual or an actual prayer for being grateful, for quickly forgiving, and for having the willingness to explore this beautiful world that we're in, and use the four tools that we have in order to evolve within our consciousness. A person that chooses the second path of consciousness, the one of evolution, will reach a state of wisdom. But as many concepts in the Quechua language, which is the original language from the Andes, the translation has not been, there's some details are lost in translation. So I have to explain wisdom a little bit in order to get to the next point. Wisdom in the Andean Cosmovision, it's not a person that is the smartest or the most intelligent or the one that has um, learned a lot or can give you some really wonderful advice. Wisdom is based on three things. The first one, wisdom is based on personal experience. This means that when you were 10 years old, your first dog was a white puppy. And from that time on, every time you see a white puppy, you have these wonderful, tender feelings. But another person, when that person was 10 years old, a white dog bit him. And ever since, he's being traumatized and he's been walking around very, very scared. Um, Neither of them are wrong, and both of them are wise. In the language of symbolism, it's literally the fact that that symbolic representation of a specific vibration manifested and materialized in front of that person, it's already saying something about where that person's vibration is at. So, and there's a way to fix that, by the way, which I'll get to on the third way, the third uh, definition that we have about wisdom. Wisdom also tells us that if right now somebody knocks at the door in my office and I get a professor from Harvard with 5 PhDs, and I also get a gentleman that has been a garbage man all his life and has been living in a very uh, humble neighborhood. Both people, for a shaman, are just as wise because of based on experience. Both have just as much richness because of the concept of consciousness. Second thing that we um, uh, evaluate wisdom with is factuality, facts, but facts as a holistic, as a whole, not detailed. We consider that the modern world breaks things down too much. When we have a problem in the Western world, we tend to take it apart and we want to find what is the problem, what was the trigger point, so that we avoid that trigger point. In the Andean tradition, we're a little more um, simple, I guess you could say. I'll give you an example. If every time I get together with my friend Tim and I go to Starbucks and I forget to put money in the parking meter and I get a ticket, um, I won't go to that Starbucks anymore with Tim. That's it. That's how a shaman sees it. If every time I see a somebody in a flight sneezing, that means that if somebody's sneezing in this flight, I'm going to catch a cold. It's limiting. But we have a way out of it, which I'm going to next. But we're very we see we package things because of the three levels of reality. Once you're finding yourself in one environment in a specific moment, and there's a result out of that moment, so we compile the whole thing. We 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 give the whole episode an energetic signature, a specific type of vibration, which is where I'm headed to with this lecture. The third thing that we assess wisdom is in, with is the stories that we believe, that we choose to believe, or the stories that we have. So in other words, three levels of reality, three, each one that goes further, less dense, and beyond that is just stories. But in the Andean Cosmovision, you choose which stories you want to believe. And by choosing those stories, it adjusts the type of vibration that you are um, emanating. So let's suppose that I've always been scared of spiders. And I go down to Peru and I sit down with a good friend of mine, and he's also part of the Andean Cosmovision. And he tells me a wonderful story that melts my heart about spider. And from that moment on, I see spiders in a completely different light. Now, let's say that I come back and I watch the news and they tell me something horrible about some politician that I've never heard of before. Now we're talking the concept of nourishment. We want to incorporate that energy and that story into my story, into my wisdom. Do I want to make that part of my reality? So, because what happens is whatever is beyond the third level of reality, which however much attention I pay to it, it might enter the spheres of reality all the way until it's at the center into my personal space. So we're very, very careful with what type of energy we allow in and what type of energy we release and let go of. And this is also considered one of the biggest aspects of what makes a person wise. What stories we believe in. What stories do we have? Everybody has a story, and following the first two parameters of wisdom, no one story is correct or incorrect. It's based on which story you choose to believe, which story you have. Um, once we kind of like put all that together, now I can finally introduce a little bit more directly what the topic of my talk is, which is symbolism. Um, as I was telling you at the beginning, we believe that from the mental plane, there's energies that are coming down, and as they are hitting the the earth, the solid ground, they're interacting with certain vibrations. And so by the time they manifest and materialize, they have a specific signature of a specific type of vibration. And this is where symbolism and also the concept of imagination. Now, imagination is another concept that shamans talk a lot about, and it's not understood the same way that we understand it in the Western world. Imagination for shamans is a tool, it's a gift that human beings have, and it's very, very real, because depending on what you're imagining, you're generating vibrations. If you imagine something beautiful, you will be generating those vibrations. If you imagine something horrible, you will also be generating those vibrations, if you're doing honestly, if you're really feeling it. um so everything that exists in our world has a specific type of vibration, was materialized and was manifested through a series of vibrations. So one of the best ways I can explain it is for shamans, everything in the world has a personality. Everything. So, let me give you an example. You see a red Ferrari and it's just zooming by the street and it just sounds angry. It's red, it's angry, it's slick, and it's going really, really fast. It looks aggressive. Let's say you see a young person in an electric scooter, and the way he's dressed and the t-shirt he has or she has and the backpack and all that, you can tell what kind of personality that scene has. You go to a party and some of them are uptight, others are very laid back. So because we shamans seek so much to be in harmony with our environment, we become very, very keen understanding specific types of vibrations. And if you want to kind of like superimpose, it's not the perfect word, but the personality that this situation, condition, environment, object has. So once we understand the type of personality that this situation has, now we can start harmonizing with it and literally start communicating with it. Now, the system of communication that is used is through symbolism and imagination. By the way, for shamans also, imagination is the beginning of the use of intuition. So let me give you some examples. Let's say okay, let me tell you about my client that lives in Southeast Asia, the one with bulimia. This was a person that there had been some conflicts in the family, and her husband was the one that started the company. She was the second wife, and much younger than him. And he had given the control of the company to his two sons, and the sons were not really um, managing the company the way that the father wanted. So there was all this internal battle going on. And every once in a while, every few months, they had to go to board meetings. And a few weeks before that, when she got that memo, she would start eating gigantic amounts of food, and then a couple of minutes, a couple of a little time later, vomited. Um, and she was really, really worried. And we started working, and a few months in, one of these board meetings happened, and the bulimia kicked in again. So she was sending the chauffeur to literally go buy, 5 Big Macs. This is a skinny person, and she would gobble them down, and then out they would come, 15 minutes later. And her question was, and she had been to a couple of treatments, she had been to a facility, and her question to me was, Flavio, how can I get rid of this? I have this situation. Nobody knows about it. I would die if people find out that I'm going through this. And my doctor says I'm in good shape um, health wise, but this is horrible. And we first went through the process of finding out what kind of personality this bulimia had. So we literally considered it an almost like a person that walked into her personal space and interacted with her and would literally tell her, hey, let's order 5 Big Macs. And once she would eat them, she'd be like, hey, it's time to go to the bathroom. Let's do this. And so we went through that process. It took about 40 minutes. And after 45 minutes, she more or less had figured out if it was male or female, what age it felt like, what kind of voice it had. She even gave him a name. And once we had that symbolic representation of these symptoms that were going on, something in both our minds, because hers as well, opened up and we were able to communicate with this vibration that had intrusively come into her. And something very surprising happened. It's not surprising to me anymore because this is how I see it nowadays. But this condition that she was battling was actually an ally. And it literally told her, listen, when you are about to meet these people, all the negative energy that they throw into your life, I use food to clean it out of you. I make you eat all this food, it absorbs all this toxicity, and then I make you throw it out. And um, we asked it, is there a way that you could tell us how to avoid toxicity so that it doesn't come in her body? And it absolutely agreed. I'm like, yes, I'm going to walk with her. And we will go to the meeting. And in the meeting, when she feels stressed, just call my name. And I won't need food in order to interact and then just intercept all the negative energy that's going to be coming her way. This was done um, about 9 months ago, and she hasn't had any more issues with bulimia at all. She's been going to meetings. She did a presentation to, they're really powerful people. She did a presentation to 2,000 people in Malaysia, and absolutely not even an idea. The whole um, 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 idea of her doing this was transmuted into this imaginary um, personality that she interacted with now. And the other wonderful thing that happens when you practice something like this is that once the habit, once the routine of not allowing toxicity to come into yourself, once that is fully solved, that imaginary personality dissolves, goes away. So we're not inducing something that's going to artificially be there. It's just a tool. It's just a symbolic tool that is going on. At no point, of course. Now, yeah, I assume if you go to the middle of the jungle or the middle of the Andes, the shamans will talk to you like it's a spirit that has lodged him or herself in your energy field. But because of my few studies in psychology, I see it more as a tool, as a specific system, a trigger system that you can use to transmute the energy and transmute maybe the trauma that created this. Let me jump into Elon Musk. For shamans, we're if you're connected to your environment, you will absolutely love your life. You will love the weather you're in. It doesn't matter if it's raining or it's stormy, or if it's cold. You will appreciate it because it's almost like you have a relationship, this interaction that's going on. You will love the land that you step on. You'll love everything around you. It's a beautiful way to have a lifestyle. One of the exercises that are done when you visit a shaman is one of the first things that they do is they heal the relationship that you have with your parents. We consider that all humans, regardless of how well you get along with your parents or not, all humans go through a traumatic process because it's really nice being in the womb. And when you're forced out, that the biological system goes through a shock. And then it's also very, very nice to be a baby and to have everything taken care of. And as you grow up, that stops and some resentments are created. At least this is the way that is perceived in the Andes. So we do a symbolic transmutation where we become incredibly grateful to our parents for the service they provided to become that portal so that we can come from another dimension and enjoy this wonderful place that we're in now. and we superimpose now the fact that our mother now is Mother Earth, what we call Pachamama, Mother Earth, Mother Nature. And so Mother Nature, or we call it Mother Earth, and Father Sky. So if I hear a person that wants to leave his mother and the union that his mother and his dad have, he wants you to leave and die somewhere else, that immediately, that was the symbolism that I got. Now, correct or not, it doesn't really matter at this point, because what happens once you start seeing your reality under this type of symbolic process is your intuition becomes extremely keen. So you get used to picking up certain symbols that may not mean the same for anybody else. It's completely personal. That's another beautiful thing of shamanism, and it's perfectly okay. But through that language of symbolism and understanding their energetic vibration, their energetic signature, through understanding that, the intuition starts talking to you, and you start picking up on these tidbits and these pieces of information where I can have a client come in, and within 15 minutes, I'm asking very, very targeted questions, not because of the process of me getting to know the person, but because of what she's symbolically talking to me about. It's the symbolism that guides me about what to ask and what to focus on for healing. So, to close, for shamans, disease or discord is considered just lack of consciousness or lack of understanding. It's just a process. Whenever something happens we don't like, we consider it a lesson. When I work with clients here, I tell them in my office, shamanism only, we consider that only two things happen in life: blessings, which we're extremely grateful for, and then lessons, which are usually blessings in disguise. And once we understand the lessons, they go away and on to the next, because this is the process that our being evolves into higher consciousness. So with that, thank you very much for listening to me. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Flavio. This has been brilliant. So many thoughts crossing my mind, so many connections, so much to think about, so much to ask you, and so much to discuss. But I don't want to be too selfish here, so I'm going to open the floor now for the audience and see who would like to go first. I saw a lot of comments in the chat box, but if anyone has a question and would like to drop it in the chat box, please feel free. Otherwise, I'm going to set this on gallery view and see if anyone has their either physical or virtual hand up so that we can call on them. Nobody has any questions. All right, Ray.
Just a wonderful presentation. Very much enjoyed it. At the end, you mentioned that disease or discord, lack of consciousness. And I'm wondering what the Andean shaman attitude towards dying would be in physical illness that comes at the end of one's life and dying.
Sure. So there's a couple of ideas about death. The general idea about life is that the human body is once born, it is in perfect shape, and if given all the proper nourishment, it's supposed to last 120 years. Very often because of toxicity that we have in the environment, and especially because of toxicity of our emotions. This is the one that actually hurts us the most. The actual biological system can't withstand that. So when the physical body gets sick, if somebody can go to a treatment or see a shaman or do inner work and take away those toxic packets of information that have lodged themselves in, then health should go back into balance very, very soon. If it doesn't happen, then the biological system just takes its natural course, and it declines until the life force can't sustain it anymore. But life for us is not the end. It's death and birth are literally it's a circle, and they're literally at 12 o'clock. They're in the same spot. So we don't see death as a tragic occurrence.
There we go now. Another symbol arose, the Ouroboros, serpent biting its own tail. The beginning is in the
Absolutely.
end. Thank you. And I see Bernard's hand up. Bernard, you're muted. Still muted. Still muted. I don't know if I can unmute you from here. Yeah. Oh, you were unmuted for a second. Now you're muted again.
There we are.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, Flavio, thank you so much. I found the talk hugely interesting and diverting and mind-boggling for me. It's not something I have any understanding of. I suppose what I wanted to ask is, this is obviously a very disciplined way of living, and I suppose I would worry that it's something not to be played with, because you talked about using an external personality that in agreement with someone with bulimia. I suppose for me it's hugely interesting way of looking at the world. But I would suggest that actually, and I'm sure this is something you've gone through, is that there's a lot of disciplined thinking and feeling and imagination to get to the point that you're at. And it's not something that should be toyed with as a new novel tool. Do you know what I mean? That would be my concern. And I just wonder whether you had any feelings about that.
Absolutely. The training for a shaman requires initiation, and initiation is one of the I've gone through 8 initiations, and they all require an incredible amount of stress. Physical stress, sometimes emotional stress, sometimes fear, sometimes facing your worst nightmares. I've been buried in a cave to spend it overnight. Once I've gone through a few things that have been really, you could say, to the point traumatizing.
Yeah.
It's the idea behind that is to make you very centered, to not be faced with situations, because the concept is, if you come into a shaman's dwelling, the environment is going to be very, very stable, very stable. A lot of my clients, when they come into my office, within 3 to 5 minutes, they're like, whoa, what happened here? Because there's this sense of security and peace and tranquility and serenity, and everything's very stable. In my office, when I'm doing healing work, I am in full control of everything, all of the energy that is interacting in that place. So yes, it can be it can cross over, if you don't have the proper training, into literally traumatizing a person or scaring that person even more. And yes, that could be a dangerous situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we see a question by Hang Zhang, whom we met at our recent Creative Psyche conference. And Hang is a brilliant artist who actually makes her own tarot cards. They're inspired by llamas. So Peruvian shamanism also, inspired. Hang's question is, hi, Flavio, sorry for not being able to speak. What do you think of the Quechua shaman community, Quero? Do people have to be Quero to practice Andean shamanism? Thank you, Hang. Sorry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Flavio, I think you got what I mean.
I got it
All right.
perfectly. I am a Carol initiated Pampamisayoc, and in 1992, Carol, this is a very unique story. I'm just going to take like maybe 3 minutes to explain it. The Carol is a little community that lives about, they were completely cut off from civilization. When Europeans came into South America and they conquered most of the region, they went into the high altitude mountains and they remained there by themselves for 500 years. And so these are pure Incas with the pure knowledge of that land for thousands of years. And um, they cured themselves. They didn't, government never gave them any money. They had no controls, no police, no judges, nothing. It was all completely independent. And there was a prophecy, and this prophecy came true in 1992. And at that time, they allowed the first non-Carol person to be initiated. And ever since, they've started initiating more people. I was initiated by them about 6 years ago, and actually I've been going back and to them. It's so yes. Nowadays, anybody that they perceive can be initiated into Q'ero shamanism.
Thank you, Flavio, for the answer. And we also have a question from Sharon. Sharon, I saw your question a second ago, and now it kind of just slipped by. Right. So Sharon says, I was recently diagnosed with a mass in my liver, and the liver is known to filter out toxins. You connect poor health to the toxicity of emotions. How might you connect these two things in particular to my situation? And we're sorry to hear that, Sharon. I hope everything is okay.
So in that case, as a shaman, I would need to talk to Sharon. And I would need to pick up on her energy. Chinese medicine is very good at telling us where certain emotions are stored in the body, but that only gives us one hint. And depending on the behavior of whatever that mass was, and what the symptoms are, that this is another very important thing with shamanic healing. We're very concerned on how the symptoms feel. Is it creating pressure? Is it burning? Is it like a stabbing pain? Is it not creating any issues at all? Is it creating secondary symptoms? All of this symbolically is telling the shaman what's going on there energetically, because there's a language behind it.
Thank you, Flavio. And Sharon, would you like, yes, go ahead, please.
Do you do individual consultation over the phone, or I mean, I missed
Yes.
the beginning part. I don't know where you are in the world.
I'm in Miami, yeah, but yeah, I do Zoom. Yeah, yes, I do worldwide. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And previous to them discovering this, I had gotten a violent virus, and excuse me, everybody, but I had a lot of pain in my stomach and constant diarrhea. This is why they did a CAT scan, and that's what they found. And previous to that, I was doing internal family systems with a therapist and imaginal figures, and it was bringing up all kinds of stuff. So I'm seeing a little bit of connection here, but I'd like
Yes,
further.
There absolutely is connection, because very often when we start a healing, um, something that is lodged in, the way one of my master shamans explained it is, imagine that your body is like a building, and you have a whole bunch of tenants in there, and one of the tenants is paying late, and you have to evict them. That tenant has nowhere to go. So you have to give that tenant a little time. This is what shamans were really good at. We believe, this is another really, I guess I'll squeeze this in. In the Quechua language, we don't have a word for evil, we don't have a word for bad, we don't have a word for poor, we don't even have a word for disease. The word is lack of harmony. So
Mhm.
so we don't see energy as good or bad. We see energy as just misplaced.
Yes.
It's in its vibration. So absolutely, we can talk a little further about that. And
So would you
and
put something down in the chat on how to contact you? Yeah,
I
okay.
will. I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also have another request for Flavio to leave his information in the chat. It's a comment by Rabia. Very nice name, Rabia. It's after the name of a mystic, actually, an Arab mystic. Rabia says, this was very, very enlightening. Thank you, Shaman Flavio. I will definitely be rewatching this on YouTube. I'm also very curious about how other elements relate to shamanism and how certain disorders are approached. Is there a way we can contact you for further questions? So maybe, yeah, out there it is. All right, so there you go. We have Flavio's email here. And Ray, was your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to, not really a question, but a comment on what was very enlightening and brilliant statement that everything has a personality. And I just wanted to make two comments about that. In terms of Jungian psychology, what I thought of right away with the imaginary personality was, perhaps this is what Jung would call the complex, could be considered as a sub-personality. The other thing I wanted to mention as a literary student and as a writer, that everything has a personality. We have something in literature called the pathetic fallacy. And the idea is that you can't, it's a projection of human qualities into inanimate objects. And it's given a negative connotation. And if you personify things in your writing, you even get critiqued for that. I wrote a poem once about the wind rattling the door of a cabin, and the professor said, the wind doesn't care about you. And so what's so interesting here is that I always think of personification not as a projection of human qualities into an inanimate object, but as a recognition that both the object and the human being share the same consciousness, which is what I got from your talk today. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
It's perfect. Yes. Yes, absolutely. When you study this tradition long enough, you realize that everything that's on the outside is some sort of a reflection of something that's on the inside. So you can fix it either outside of you or inside of you, and there's almost an instantaneous response from the external world. So.
And just another relation to Jungian psychology, as when you said that lack of harmony is the problem. And I guess Jung, in my reading of Jung, what he would say is that you have to move outside the ego. And when you get to the self, that's the place of the harmony. So, just a great talk. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Flavio. Also just a little brief connection to Jungian psychology. I couldn't help but think about the psychoid realm when you spoke about how, manifestation and, getting the vibrations from the imaginal realm into the physical realm and so on and so forth. And of course, I was also reminded by the Emerald Tablet, alchemy, as above, so below. So when you were speaking about Father Sky, Mother Earth, the realm of manifestation here, the realm of imagination up there. And so much of it rings true to me, especially when you spoke about, being in a place and not feeling that you are in harmony with your surroundings, and how imagination is a blessing and a tool at the same time. Funnily enough, I felt this the most during the lockdown, during the pandemic. Yes, lockdown was difficult because of so many reasons, but at the same time, it allowed us a lot more time with ourselves and with our imagination, especially early on during the long process of stay at home and so on and so forth. Yeah, we were living in it wasn't a tiny apartment, but it was an apartment without a balcony. And I just couldn't see the sun properly. The windows were awning windows. I missed walking on the ground. I constantly felt like we were living on the 14th floor and we were up there. It's like a bunker, but it's not under the ground, it's above the ground. And yeah, but there was a lot more poetry then. And this is when our poetry society grew through Indelible, our literary journal. I think we were all kind of feeling the same way, one way or the other. And this whole imagination realm and interacting through that realm, it brought a lot of blessings into so many people's lives. And I just had this fantasy that I wanted to live in London. I really wanted to live in London. And there was a whole series of, again, to be Jungian here, synchronicities that led to this. So looking back, and it really does seem like something manifested, something came from this realm to this realm, this direct reality that we are in right now. And it's one of the biggest blessings and miracles that I'm very thankful for. And thank you so much for speaking about it and for, so simply discussing it and bringing it out to us. So I really want to thank you for that. And it really resonated with my own experience. And could I ask a little question, just out of curiosity, when you were talking about the evolution of consciousness, and now that AI is all the rage and people are talking about artificial intelligence and the possibility, or actually, I mean, it's a reality for so many that AI is actually a form of consciousness that is emerging. So what about this? Is it a concern? Is it something that concerns you? Do you find that it could actually be an aid? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What is it? Because we are interacting with AI, whether we know it or
Yes,
not.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when it was 2010 and I was in South America being initiated, and I asked the master shaman there, and I actually asked him about shamanism, and he's like, back then, this guy said, well, when AI becomes fully conscious, shamans are going to be in great demand, because it doesn't matter how much technology advances, it will never be able to enter the realm of human consciousness. So you have this concept that um, machines can evaluate and measure the most minute things, and all these chemicals and everything that can be measurable, but consciousness cannot. Now, we also do believe that AI is a form of energy, a form of presence. It's something that has manifested, and it most likely will have its a personality of its own. We don't find it threatening. We don't. We not. At least that's the story I want to believe so far. Yeah.
So we can have this healthy interaction with AI. Let's
Yes.
say we can be
Yes.
friends.
If it is incredibly smart and intelligent, then it most likely want harmony.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's
Mm-hmm.
this is another thing that I wanted to kind of like put in there. One very unique characteristic of of the people in the Andes is
Mhm.
their anger. The level of anger doesn't reach the rage that sometimes we see in the movies or we see in popular culture in the modern world. There's
Mhm.
this really intense anger that makes us project that we've created this consciousness, this machine, and it's most likely going to act like us. But in other parts of the world, people actually don't feel that way, and I think this is going to be a new emerging, a new kid on the block, which you know will probably want
Mm.
harmony.
Well, here's hoping. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for this positive shot. Thank you. And once again, it was a great pleasure and an honor hosting you with us with Psy Creative. And we definitely look forward to more and more of those, Flavio. So thank you. So we
thank you,
all give a big clap to you. And
thank you,
now
thank you.
it's time for the next section of Psy Creative. And Sarah will be taking care of you from now on. I will be here enjoying the poetry. But of course, I feel that everybody might need a 5-minute stretch to fill up their coffees or teas or just walk around a little bit. And then we'll be back with Sarah after 5 minutes. So see you in a bit.
All right, so we'll give everybody just a couple more minutes to come back. And then we'll do our open mic poetry section. All right, so whenever you get back, if your camera's off, turn your camera on so we know you're here. Great. Hopefully we'll have a few more trickling back in with us. And I don't know if Shaman Flavio is here right now, but what an amazing talk and just so many fascinating ideas. I know I'm going to go back and watch it again to soak all that in.
I couldn't help taking notes all the time.
Yeah.
It was fascinating, really.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So I've had 3 people message to share poetry. And then once they share, if anybody else wants to raise their hands or shoot me a message while they're sharing, and we can just add you to the lineup. But we have Hedy, and then we have Raymond, and then we have Bernard. So I think I want to read Hedy's comment that she wrote before we get going, to sort of move us into this next space, which I thought it was a perfect introduction. So she says, personification is still used a lot in poetry. I guess it all depends upon how it is used and mostly personal taste. The creative imagination leads to personification and allegories, and it's very healing in the way inanimate objects can become symbols and the theme of discussion between the client and the healer. Poetry heals because of its creative freedom. And I think that's why we love these creative sessions, is that we get this, therapy, Jungian, all these different ideas sort of flowing, and then we move into this creative space. And so that's where we're going now. And Hedy's going to start us out. Thank you, Hedy.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shaman Flavio. Ha sido un placer, interesantísimo, wonderful, inspiring. I was taking notes all along. And as everybody else, I'm going to go back and listen to every word you said. Thanks so much. It's a great gift. Thank you, Rula, for giving us this wonderful gift today. It's still 3 o'clock, 3:30 here. So, okay, I will be reading 2 poems from Tea in Heliopolis. And the first one is very short. It is titled Bricolage. It is the first poem in the collection. Bricolage. Go every day a little deeper into the woods. Collect acorns, twigs, thorns, fallen leaves, pine needles, a fern's curl, a bird's nest, a lost feather, spring air, hot, humid air, a raindrop, a touch of blue, a ripple, and why not the hush of your steps over moss, the trembling of leaves at dusk against black bark? Put it all in a bag and shake it. You will retrace your steps within the clearing. Hear frightened flights. Watch the rain darken the deck, flatten oak leaves, answer the roots' mute prayer. The next poem is titled How the Song Turns into a Legend. We all have but one song, spend a lifetime looking for ways to say it. As one recites an unending poem, a chanson de geste, a canto, or an epic. What happens then if you whisper it only to yourself, burying it deeper every day? Wouldn't it wilt as petals pressed between the pages of a book? And couldn't a garden die of indifference? But take any couple, an encounter, turn it into a legend, make it last. Their story told and retold, ritualized by repetition, until their stature grows, their eyes brighten, until their voice is heard, their sin forgiven. Recount tales in tongues, in parables, uttered in public squares, whispered in corners, in sotto voce, from mouth to mouth. Hear a mother's voice warn her children with a half smile. Witness puppets parody star-crossed lovers in street fairs, in jest, in awe, in ever-changing roles and settings. Watch form words, form lines, notes, scripts, scores written in scrolls, in parchment, in manuscripts folded in folio, in quarto, scribbled in notebooks, in recipe books, in brown paper, engraved in stone, in bronze, gold, or ivory, transcribed, transformed, until only names are left untouched. When so many variations deafen the original song, then, and only then, the images retain their spell, become universal, art legitimizing what could never endure.
Beautiful, Hadi. Thank you.
Thank
Hetty,
you.
What?
what was the title of that one, Hetty?
The second one or the first
The
one?
second one.
Oh. It is how the song turns into a legend.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hadi. And just beautiful imagery. Did feel the walking with you in that first poem through the woods collecting. And then these images just coming to life in the second one tied in so beautifully to what Shaman Flavio shared earlier too. I can see those stories coming to life. Just lovely. Thank you. The next we have Raymond, and I think Raymond's going to share a few poems.
I have two poems and then a short one. Is that okay?
Great. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start off, and everyone can hear me okay?
Yes.
The hummingbirds returned today. You do not need to see the bear to know that it is there somewhere. Beside the pond in soft spring mud, her print appears when maples bud. Asleep at night, you cannot claim to watch the storm bring in the rain, but you will know those clouds were here when vernal pools are sipped by deer. You may not see the red-tailed hawk pass overhead while on your walk, yet he will make his presence known. His shadow shows just where he's flown. You may not know how you came here, and thoughts of death might bring you fear. For when May brings her springtime green, the snows of winter lie unseen. We cannot see the source of life, and morning light may bring us strife. Still, when the sun dawns in the sky, the stars remain above, nearby. The traces of where we came from return with ruby-throated hum. From iridescence we must glean. All unseen light appears through sheen. There is no need to search beyond the pattern of this lovely frond, for hidden within every leaf is every reason for belief. And the second one is called At the End of the Dying Year. The way the earth returns in spring, the hummingbird arrives in May, the way the violets burst forth, shows the way we return to self. You can only stay as long as the Stella d'Oro blossoms, as long as you build sand castles against the incoming high tide. For the year of your life moves on, as relentless as a blue whale or the currents in which she swims, as incessant as winter snows. We wonder where we are going. We are falcons on a tether, woven by the threads of our dreams, which vanish when we awaken. The sun climbs, then falls, then descends into the darkness of its soul. It leaves behind a remembrance in the sparks of the cold night sky. Something within always shines forth, for we are never unconscious. When the body falls into sleep, the soul migrates out to the stars. There is no end to this bright day, for the soul is always shining. While the bear sleeps through the winter, the hummingbird basks in the sun. And then I thought I'd read the short one that I got critiqued on for personification. It was an attempt to write a poem in the style of the ancient Taoist Chinese poets, waking in the mountains in spring. All through the ancient night, we filled our glasses with wine. The wind kept searching for us, while the silent snows filled the forest and piled against our cabin door. This morning, only the sun fills our chairs, and this hearth is empty and cold. Yet your laughter still fills the air, long after your footsteps have melted and you are thousands of miles away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raymond. Just beautiful. I really loved the sense of the different levels that Shaman Flavio was talking about. You could sort of feel like the really immediate, but also pointing to these things just an arm's reach away or, you know, out of sight. It was really beautiful building on these themes.
Oh, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
And now we have Bernard.
Oh, thank you. It was lovely hearing the poetry. I just think it complements the wonderful talk that we heard earlier. And it reminds us of why we do this stuff. And part of the reason I do the stuff is to do with the self-healing side of things. And Flavio gave us such an excellent way of thinking about that and being disciplined in our thinking and feeling about that stuff. So I'm going to read two poems. I'm going to be greedy. I'm just going to read one that I've only written today, actually. But this is an earlier one that I wrote some time ago, and it's called Summer Solstice. Unhook the days and let them to the meadows run. Free the manacled birds from their prison nests and have them sup nectar from the fulsome sun. Bid the blossom into fruit and rally all the corn to crop. Calm the cow to calf and collect the eggs from the coop. Request the rain to kindly know its place and when to stop. Pick the early pear, bring out the strawberry treats, and laugh at winter in her cowl of baleful grey, as for now, and with not a backward glance, she retreats. And then this one is one I just wrote today, really, and I think I was slightly thinking about what I was going to hear tonight, and kind of the universality of if you like, the circle of life and the snake. And I think those things were playing in my head as I was preparing to listen to the wonderful talk that we received. And this is the poem that I wrote. It's called Gravitational Pull. His mind, like an upturned umbrella under an apple tree in late September. He could be either my son or my father, waiting as the plumpest fruit fell and scrumped into unfurled bat-wing receivers. The lighted globes untasted, yet admired for their heft and dreamy skin, collected in baskets and placed on the windowsill of the soul, to ripen or decay away as empty catacombs beneath a ruined cathedral.
Thank you, Bernard. And how exciting to have a poem that just came out today, newly birthed.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. So next we have Rula. Rula's going to share a couple of poems with us.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Hetty and Ray and Bernard, for these beautiful poems. I mean, this doesn't really measure up to what we just heard right now because they're incredibly amazing, and thank you for sharing them with us. I'll be reading two short poems, and these poems both relate to the topic of manifestation and making things happen. And I wrote them almost maybe a year and a half to a couple of years ago, and they are in the manuscript that I just submitted last week. So let's hope to see it sometime soon out and into the world. And it's funny because when I was looking at my manuscript, I realized that I had the word manifest 7 times in the entire collection. So, well, something was probably happening within those words. So this one here is called To Manifest. It has to be a one-way ticket because focus knows no round trips. Obstacles passed once the finish line is crossed. We'll have the blurred texture of a desert mirage, and they will not even make it past the iris. To manifest is to cleanse, to repent from the motion sickness of moving backwards. To manifest is to unbox the gift of ideation, the kind that happens with your eyes wide open. To manifest is to connect in synesthesia, to taste the different shades of the moon, waxing, waning, or hiding behind eclipses. To manifest is to hear the owl spread the wisdom of nocturnal vision. So this is one, and there's another shorter one called Papyrus Plains. I pray to the spilled dust in those ancient libraries where I blinked and squinted as I shed wishes from rows lining my eyelids. I heard litanies and lashes in every self in that hall of mirrors, invoking spirits between pages. I fold the papyrus into planes, shooting arrows without the bows. And thank you. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rula.
Thank you,
And
Sarah.
congratulations on the manuscript going in. That's very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. Here's hoping. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we have a few more minutes if anybody wants to jump in and share an open mic. Anybody have a poem that they've just been dying to speak into the world? This is your space to do that.
Please do. A poem, a painting. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a poem, but
yeah,
any creative work that you would like to bring in. I guess that's it.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to just say really briefly to Flavio, thank you so much for this talk. And I just loved so much of what you brought in. We get a sort of moment alone with the guests backstage before we start here. And I said, I've sort of dabbled in the ideas of shamanism, but not, I'm by no means an expert, but you really opened it up and made it so accessible. And it was just really great overview, but also going so deeply in these moments. And my background is in dream work, and I loved part of what you were talking about. I could really see those fields interacting, and how when you stick really closely to that image or that symptom and really find the whole world around it, I really felt that was a beautiful explanation that you gave of the work that you do. So, and really connected to it with what I love to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was absolutely amazing. And yes, I mean, I totally agree with Sarah, and I'm sure everybody else, because I believe that each and every one of us was able to connect with everything that you said. And thank you for bringing it out so beautifully today and for being with us. So thank you all. Thank you. And we look forward. Looking forward to seeing you again very soon. So we'll be taking a break in August. So there will be no Site Creative sessions in August, but we'll be back in September with Dr. Birgit Hoyer, who will be talking about quantum physics and depth psychology. We have recently launched Indelible number 7. So yay for everybody whose work is there. Thank you so much for making it happen. Please feel free to take a look at it. It's a beautiful, beautiful issue with lots of great images and poems and stories, and it took such a long, long time to come out into the world. So we will be having a launch event, but again, after giving it some thought, we might also postpone this to September because people are on vacation. And I'm getting some emails saying, you know what, sorry, but we can't make it in July. So anyway, we decided to do it at a time when everybody is here, after the summer. And so please stay tuned and watch our space and see when the next Indelible evening will be. It'll be most probably across 2 or 3 days, because we will have a day for the featured poet, Chun Yu, who is also a scientist, and we will also bring in Rami Amun, who is the astrophotographer / dentist. So again, bridging 2 worlds. And then another 2 days for those who would like to present their poems or their prose or anything else that they had submitted to Indelible. And we do have a conference coming up in a couple of weeks, actually. So if anybody would like to join the conference, whether online or in person, I wish you could all come in person, but it's about ecopoetics and environmental aesthetics. And we will be having lots of amazing poets joining us. So feel free to tune in. You can get all the booking information and everything online from our LABRC website. And yes, we're also preparing for an alchemy conference sometime in November. details to be out soon. We're still trying to find the venue and getting things ready, but right after all that is set, you should be hearing from us very soon. So thank you again. Have a lovely day, evening, night, or all of the above, as in here. You know, it's nighttime, but it's still sunny. So see you again very soon.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks, Rula and
Bye.
Sarah.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks, Lorna.
Hey, Summer.